The shocking truth about Nicodemus, the man who tended Jesus' body at midnight forever in the dead of night. When the world slumbers, an eerie tale unfolds in the shadows of history. Picture this: a man, cloaked in secrecy, draped in the warmth of betrayal, and bound by a mission so perilous that even the moonlight hesitates to cast its glow upon it. Nicodemus, a name whispered in hushed tones, feared by some, revered by others, a man who tangled with the divine, tending to Jesus' lifeless body under a blanket of stars. But what if there is more? What if his actions that fateful night weren't benign, but a desperate grapple with the supernatural? This was a moment where shadows danced, and the air crackled with suspense, begging the question what could possibly unfold in those chilling hours. As the clock ticked toward midnight, Jerusalem lay still, an unpredictable stillness wrapped around the city. Here, walls became witnesses, arches echoed with secrets, and cobblestones bore the weight of untold stories. Nicodemus, a Pharisee by day, turned into a lawyer of the night, his heart racing against the cadence of his own conscience. With trembling hands, he carried spices, myrrh, and aloes, fragrant offerings meant for a burial, yet shrouded with an ominous omen. Each step he took felt saturated with uncertainty, shadows of guilt lurking behind his every move. Was he there to pay respects or to seal a pact with the darkness? Whispers swept through the city, streaks of rumors slipping under doors like smoke, but no one expected the storm brewing within the tomb. Was it a secret known only to him? Or did the courage of a single man set the stage for something far more extraordinary? Anticipation surged as he approached the place that held the remains of the one who claimed to be the Son of God. Raw emotions spiraled within him, fear clenched at his throat, clamoring against the crushing weight of destiny. Tending to a lifeless form felt like tempting fate itself. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the entrance loomed before him, darkness seemed to swallow the light, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and regret. Did he expect something incredible to happen, or was he merely preparing for the aftermath of a tragic end? The truth lay just out of reach, a ghost of a chance dancing in the air, and each labored breath he took echoed a silent plea. What secrets would the tomb unveil, and how far would one man go to confront the legacy he was entangled in? The chilling thought sent shivers down his spine, and it was just the beginning of a journey far deeper than he could ever imagine. The air grew heavy as Nicodemus stood at the entrance, his heart thrumming erratically in his chest. With every flicker of uncertainty, he felt the weight of his decision pressing down upon him like the stones sealing the tomb. Was this more than just a burial? His mind raced, entangled in the threads of fate he had willingly snared himself in. Pushing aside the stone, the cold air surged out like a gasp, wrapping around him. He stepped inside, the scent of spices mingling with the dampness, forming a blanket of sorrow that clung to his skin. Shadows curled around the corners, flickering like ghosts of memories he dared not confront. What did he hope for? Closure? Redemption? Or had he come to seek something darker? As he lit a small oil lamp, its glow danced violently, illuminating the stone walls that encapsulated centuries of death and decay. Each flicker told a story, stories best left unspoken. There, in the middle of it all, lay the body once vibrant, now a husk devoid of life. He swallowed hard, fear clawing at his throat, yet he felt drawn closer, an invisible thread tugging him as he approached. His hands trembled like leaves in a storm. Nicodemus felt this heavy weight, the weight of regret, of the choices he had made and the life he had led. He recalled the gatherings, the flattering discussions among the Pharisees, the envy that told him to stay in the shadows, a whispering serpent coiled around his mind. But here, now, standing versus death itself, none of it mattered. The sound of shuffling footsteps echoed behind him, breaking the thick tension in the air. He turned sharply. Who could it be? With his heart racing, he grasped the oil lamp, casting frantic shadows against the stone. An outline appeared, a hooded figure stepping into the small circle of light. Nicodemus's breath caught. Had he finally crossed the line into madness? The figure paused, then moved closer, the hood falling back to reveal a familiar face. It was Joseph of Arimathea, a man caught in the same web of complexity as Nicodemus. His eyes mirrored the fear and confusion pulsing within. "You shouldn't be here," Joseph whispered, urgency flooding his voice. "What if someone finds us?" "I couldn't let him go without a fight," Nicodemus replied, his voice strained yet firm. Joseph's hand shot out, grasping Nicodemus's arm, grounding him in the moment, as they both stood there, breathing in the intoxicating mix of fear and determination. "Do you understand what you're asking for?" Joseph leaned in closer, glancing nervously at the tomb's entrance. "In this act, we may awaken forces beyond our comprehension. Do you truly think we can alter fate?" Something in those words ignited a flicker of doubt in Nicodemus. Why had he felt this pull? Was it desperation, heroism, or a fool's quest? His hands shook as he prepared the spices, each movement echoing a silent demand. What were they hoping to accomplish? As he spread the fragrant myrrh across the lifeless body, shadows seemed to distort and stretch around him, merging into a swirling mass. The very air held its breath, and for a fleeting moment, Nicodemus felt warmth radiate from Jesus' body, a spark of something divine. Was it hope, or was it a precursor to despair? Suddenly, the ground rumbled beneath their feet, unsettling stones shifting with a voice that echoed through the darkness, reverberating through both men. The tomb trembled as if the very walls were alive. "What have you done?" Joseph shouted, panic etching lines on his face. "Perhaps, just perhaps, we've unearthed more than we ever intended," Nicodemus murmured, eyes wide, heart racing. As they exchanged fearful glances, the air thickened, and the whispers of the past lurked behind them, beckoning them to understand the depth of their actions. A cold wind rushed through the tomb, extinguishing the lamp and plunging them into darkness. The echo of a heartbeat filled the air, sudden and unbidden. Was it Jesus, or something else entirely? Every instinct screamed at them to flee, yet their feet remained rooted. What awaited them beyond that shadow? The only thing certain was that they had awakened something sleeping, and there was no turning back now. With their hearts pounding as one, they exchanged a single, terrified look. The truth was about to unveil itself, and neither was prepared for what they would discover. What had they unleashed? A silence fell over the tomb, thick and heavy like a storm cloud. Neither Nicodemus nor Joseph dared to breathe. The heartbeat echoed again, louder this time, a rhythmic thumping that resonated through the very marrow of their bones. Each pulse seemed to vibrate with an urgency that threatened to consume them whole. "What is happening?" Joseph whispered, his voice shaky as if it might shatter at any moment. Nicodemus's mind raced. Had they truly disturbed a tomb that was never meant to be opened? The warmth he had felt flickering within the lifeless body was fading, replaced by a chill that sank deeper than the air around them. They had defiantly touched something sacred, and now it was pushing back, awakening forces that lay dormant for too long. Without the dim glow of the lamp, the shapes around them twisted into nightmares. He could barely make out Joseph's features, but the fear etched into his friend's expression was palpable. The darkness seemed to swirl, pressing against them like a living thing. "Nicodemus," Joseph began, but before he could finish, the ground shook violently, and they stumbled, clutching each other for support. The tremors deepened, sending a shower of dust and small stones cascading from the high ceiling. Suddenly, the heartbeat changed. It morphed, shifting into a resonant cadence that felt impossibly distant yet intimately close. Then, a voice broke through the darkness, gentle yet commanding. It echoed around them an ancient chant, rhythmic and foreboding. "Who dares disturb the slumber?" The voice wrapped around them, each word dripping with an otherworldly weight. Nicodemus felt his stomach drop, his instincts screaming that they had crossed a threshold beyond mortal comprehension. The legends of what lay beyond death rushed into his mind, tales fraught with dire warnings and consequences. "Run," he shouted, instinctively pulling Joseph toward the entrance. But as they turned, the stone door began to shift, grinding against the ancient hinges, sealing them further into this dismal reality. "What now?" Joseph's panic rose, his voice quivering with desperation. "We can't stay here." Yet there was an implacable force in the shadows, an energy that seemed to swirl and tighten around them. The air thickened, suffocating their pleas, and the voice returned, louder and more commanding this time. "Your intentions do not matter. You tread upon suffering and despair. The price shall be paid." They were trapped in a net of ancient truths, doors swinging wide open to the unknown. Nicodemus' heart pounded against his ribs as he was pulled fully into the haunting murmurs. Nothing converged here but darkness, and he suddenly regretted the spices, the grieving. No more late-night, clandestine missions. They had stirred something unrelenting, something wrong. Joseph grabbed Nicodemus' shoulders, pulling him back into the present moment. "We must," but the ground rumbled again, interrupting them with a menacing growl and parting their words like a knife through velvet. Then suddenly stillness. An oppressive absence filled the space, as if the world held its breath, waiting for something to die in that moment. An eerie glow pierced the shadows, faint but undeniable. It pulsed steadily, like a heartbeat, bathing the tomb in an otherworldly glow. Both men squinted into the light as a figure began to take shape before them, a silhouette emerging from the stillness they had awakened. Joseph gasped, stepping back. "No, that can't be." Nicodemus felt a deep chill creep over his soul, a sinking realization. What had they done? This wasn't a matter of fate anymore. They were in the presence of eternity. "Prepare yourselves," the voice intoned, filled with an unspeakable authority. "For the truth transcends time, and you are now bound to witness it." And then darkness descended once more, deeper and colder than anything they had encountered. What truth awaited them in this void? As dread settled in their hearts, the chilling question echoed through the pit of their souls. What did they truly awaken? And then everything went black. The void swallowed them whole, an endless deep where time lost its meaning. Nicodemus felt his body weightless, like he was suspended in a murky pool. He struggled to steady himself, but found nothing to anchor to. His heart hammered in his chest, a frantic drum against silence, against the encompassing black. Joseph's voice broke through the stillness, sounding distant but panicked. "Nicodemus, are you there?" His words echoed in that strange abyss, uncertain and fearful. "I'm here," Nicodemus called back, forcing resolve into his voice. But as the words left him, they felt inadequate, swallowed by the heavy shadows. "What is happening?" "Something is wrong," Joseph shouted, desperation coating his tone. "We need to get out. Now." But how? How could they escape from the grip of a darkness that seemed to have a life of its own? Nicodemus strained his eyes, searching for any sign of light, any hint of salvation. All he felt was the rising panic, twisting his stomach into knots. Then, that voice from before broke through the oppressive silence once more. "Witness, travelers. Witness what you have awakened." A rush of air swirled around them, cool and sharp, setting Nicodemus's skin prickling. Suddenly, flares of brilliant light erupted in bursts like shimmering stars igniting the night sky. Shapes began to form, cascading images reflecting the anguished faces of those lost through the ages. "Leave us!" A chorus of voices surged, blending into a cacophony of despair. Each sound filled Nicodemus's body with dread, amplifying his fear. The trapped souls? Were they here? The ones who had tread where he and Joseph had dared? No, this wasn't our intention. Joseph cried, backing away as if the echoes could manifest into something tangible. The light grew fiercer, revealing the images with a haunting clarity. Powerful kings, sorrowful mothers, betrayed lovers, all their stories woven together within the tomb's embrace. Nicodemus's breath hitched. He glimpsed his own reflection in one of those shadows, distorted by guilt and regret. They were surrounded by the remnants of lives, a testament to the reverberations of their transgressions against death itself. "I did not ask for this," he shouted, feeling the weight of their anguish pushing against his chest. "Your actions summoned us," the commanding voice replied, resonating with authority as it echoed against their souls. "You seek knowledge? Truth? Then you must be prepared for the cost of enlightenment." "What cost?" Joseph shouted, panic tinged with desperation. "Understanding demands sacrifice," the voice continued, piercing through their fear. "The past is a burden, and the future demands clarity. Are you ready to confront the choices that led you here?" In an instant, the swirling chaos of images coalesced into a single, terrifying vision. Shadows morphed into a looming figure, its outline sharp and menacing. A faint light flickered in the depths, revealing a visage that stirred an ancient recognition within Nicodemus. A figure draped in shadow, a harbinger of their buried secrets. "Now, you shall see the truth behind the slumber," the voice trailed off, and right then, a wave of icy fear washed over Nicodemus, roots clawing into his heart. "Wait," he gasped, stepping forward, legs trembling. "We didn't mean to disturb you. We only open your eyes," came the reply, low and resonant, as if echoing from the depths of time. The world around him shimmered, starlight swirling, merging chaos with clarity. The truth would be revealed, but at what price? As the bolt of recognition struck Nicodemus, a singular horrifying realization pierced through the darkness. What if the cost of this knowledge was more than they could ever fathom? And then a bright flash erupted before him, threatening to consume them whole. What awaited them on the other side? Was it liberation or despair? The ground quaked beneath them again, and they braced against the oncoming storm of truth. The light exploded in a blinding flare, and then everything went quiet once more. But they were left wondering, had they truly braved the abyss, or had they merely opened a door they couldn't close? The silence was thick enough to choke on, a void that pressed down on them, heavier than the darkest night. Nicodemus blinked into the nothingness, heart racing. Colors swirled before his eyes before settling into an oppressive gray mist. "Joseph," he called, but panic snagged his words like vines. "Where are you?" "I'm here. I can barely see. What is happening?" Joseph's voice trembled, wavering like a thin strand of silk caught in the wind. Nicodemus strained against the weight of fear wrapping around him like a noose. Then, without warning, the darkness peeled away, revealing a twisted landscape where shadows danced like wraiths having a vile celebration. Eerie shapes glided by, their forms malleable, twisting into mockeries of the human experience. The air buzzed with charged energy, an atmosphere heavy with dread. "Witness! Witness!" echoed the voice again, stronger now, vibrating against Nicodemus' core. A phantom figure emerged, taking form before them, a woman draped in tattered robes, skin pale as bleached bones. Her hollow eyes seemed to pierce straight through him, recalling long-forgotten emotions. "Do you recognize your past?" she asked, her voice a haunting whisper that sent shivers down his spine. "I don't understand," Nicodemus croaked, desperately searching for Joseph amidst the roiling shadows. "You came seeking truth, did you not?" She moved closer, her presence suffocating. "You wish to understand, then see." Before Nicodemus could comprehend, visions surged from her fingertips, cascading like a waterfall of nightmares. Scenarios played out before his eyes, a betrayal so sharp it sliced through flesh, an innocent life cut short amidst laughter. A heartbroken child, lost and alone. He staggered back. "No, stop. This isn't the choices you've made ripple through time, Nicodemus," she hissed, each word laced with bitterness. "For every action, there are consequences you cannot escape." A familiar scene flashed vividly in his mind. It was a moment he thought he'd buried deep, his hands trembling over the lifeless body of a beloved friend, the weight of guilt pressing down more heavily than the grave itself. "No, it wasn't my fault," he shouted, betrayal lacing his voice. But deep down, doubt began to gnaw at him, unraveling his tightly woven defenses. "Is it not?" The woman took a step closer, shadowy fingers stretching out like vines. "You think you can unearth the past without suffocating in its roots?" Nicodemus gasped, visions spiraling faster into despair. Families shattered, friendships severed, each tragedy tied to a choice he made or withheld. Weighty echoes reverberated through him, igniting the whispers of failure and loss. "Joseph," Nicodemus called out, panic constricting his throat. "We need to find a way out." Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled violently, the shadows writhing as if in agony. "The truth has awakened the dead, and they will not rest," the woman warned, her visage twisting into an unbearable agony. "You must face it, or be consumed." Then a blood-curdling scream split the air, a sound of pure terror. Nicodemus' head whipped around, searching frantically. Was it Joseph? The shadows thickened, coiling tighter around them. Unseen whispers darted through the darkness, urgent pleas and threats all at once, merging into a violent symphony of despair. "What do we do?" Nicodemus yelled into the chaos. "We can't stay here." But as the air crackled, a jarring reality dawned on him. Perhaps the only way through was straight into that tumult of truth. Was there strength within him to confront the heart of what haunted him? As he stood there, heart racing, shadows encroaching, a faint glow flickered on the horizon of their prison, a glimmer of hope or a farce luring them deeper into darkness. Nicodemus clutched his chest, breath coming in ragged gasps. What lay ahead promised revelation, but at what cost? Joseph's shadow wavered beside him. "Are you ready to face what comes next?" Before Nicodemus could respond, the ground lurched again, pulling them toward the light or the abyss. What awaited them in that unforgiving glow? Was it a path to redemption or a spiral into oblivion? Time froze as the choice loomed ever larger, hanging by a thread. The glow pulsed ominously, drawing Nicodemus and Joseph closer. Each flicker felt like a heartbeat, steady, persistent, and in sync with the thunderous drumming of Nicodemus's heart. He gripped Joseph's arm as if to anchor himself against the torrent of memories crashing around them. With another violent lurch, the ground shifted, swallowing their uncertain footing. "We got to move," Nicodemus shouted, urgency surging in his veins. The shadows lashed out as if sensing their growing desperation, slithering past them with sinister intent. "Where are we even going?" Joseph protested, fear knotted in his voice. "What if it's worse?" "We have to," but before Nicodemus could finish, a chill rippled through the air, freezing him in place. The woman's ghostly figure emerged again, swirling closer, her hollow eyes blazing with a fierce glow that spoke of pain. "Embrace your truth," she screeched, the shriek splitting the air like glass shattering. "Remember who you are?" Nicodemus's chest tightened. Memories flooded back. He saw himself as a child, standing at the edge of a cliff. A whispered warning, a sudden shift, and another child's laughter turned to agony. The boy who fell, the boy left behind, he had played a part, and the image tore into him like a dagger thrust deep, twisting remnants of the past into tortured shapes. "No, no." Nicodemus trembled, and he felt Joseph's grip pulling him back from the brink of madness. "I didn't tell you must face it." The phantom woman lunged forward, her rotting hand reaching for his throat, each finger a reminder of the sins he had buried. "Only there can you find your freedom." With a roar, Nicodemus forced himself to break free from Joseph's hold, stepping toward the woman, almost entranced. "What do you want from me?" he demanded, anger and sorrow colliding in his voice. "Your acceptance," she screamed, and the shadows writhed wildly, consuming the last shreds of light. "You cannot move forward without embracing the darkness within." His heart raced, torn between fleeing and confronting the pain that had defined him. He tried to suppress it, to build walls so high the past couldn't breach. But here, in this twisted dominion, those barriers crumbled, the memories flooding back in waves that threatened to drown him. Suddenly, the landscape erupted into a whirlwind of color and sound, the laughter of children, the wails of sorrow, the quiet moments of deep reflection that stung like salt in a wound. He stumbled, grappling for balance. Shadows warped and surged, swirling around him like a tempest. "Joseph!" he screamed, the name clawing at his throat, fraying his sanity. He had to fight, to find a way to save them both from this infernal grasp. But as the visions muddled together, he saw a glimpse of his friend, eyes wide with terror, enveloped by dark tendrils. "Nicodemus!" Joseph's voice broke through the chaos, raw and desperate. "Don't let it take me." "No." Nicodemus surged forward, both fury and despair intertwining, each step trembling with resolve. He could almost reach Joseph, and he could almost hear the echo of their shared past rippling around them, like a twisted tapestry unraveling. "Face it," the woman shrieked, a piercing intensity filling the air. "Only through suffering can you find the truth." And then, amidst the cacophony, another sound cut through the low, ominous rumble of something awakening in the darkness, a terrifying force pushing against the barriers they had built over the years. The faint glow intensified, morphing into a blinding lighthouse in the heart of shadow, beckoning them closer. But as Nicodemus approached, a vibration surged in his bones. Were they heading for salvation or a newfound horror? Would the light provide clarity or illumination for the very thing that would destroy them all? In that moment, truth hung like a blade above them, waiting. What was the price of facing the truth? As the shadows danced violently around him, Nicodemus braced for the answer that would change everything. Ahead, the glow pulsated, a siren's call that seemed to promise redemption and yet threatened to reveal truths far more terrifying. Nicodemus felt his body tense, each muscle coiled like a spring, ready to leap or flee. "Joseph!" he shouted again, but the shadows swallowed his voice, muffling the desperation that laced his words. "Don't be foolish." Joseph's voice echoed back, but it was tinged with a new edge, a warning, a resonance of understanding. "If we go toward the light, what will we find?" The spectral woman hovered between them, her eyes aflame with an intensity that bore into Nicodemus' soul. "You have carried this for too long," she howled, the weight of her words crashing down upon him like a tidal wave. "What's buried in your heart stay buried forever." Memories clawed at him, whispers of guilt, shadows of lost innocence. Could he really let them resurface? What would the admission cost? The abyss loomed before him, and he could taste the fear, salty and metallic. Nicodemus squared his shoulders. "If I don't confront this now, I never will." The ghostly visage seemed to smile, a vengeful curl of lips that promised suffering. "Then step forward. Claim what is yours." Without thinking, Nicodemus surged towards the light, blind to everything but the impulse spurring him onward. As he entered the radiant glow, warmth enveloped him, and for a heartbeat, he felt free. Memories morphed into visions, a world ignited by light, but harshly distorted, unveiling a scene of joy ultimately corrupted. Suddenly, he was a boy again, perched on the edge of that cliff. He looked down, terror igniting in his heart. Near the precipice, the laughter was gone, replaced by something darker and more sinister. He turned, and there stood the other child, a mirror to his own past, frozen forever in an expression of agony. "No!" he roared as the vision twisted, revealing the truth that had shackled him. He was not the innocent bystander. he was the one who turned away. The horror of his own cowardice washed over him like ice water, chilling him to the bone. A sudden shriek shattered the silence, the sound of Joseph fighting back against the shadows, desperate and wretched. "Nicodemus, you have to choose. You can't carry this alone." Pain pierced Nicodemus's heart. "I can't let you go like this," he cried back, straining against the phantom barriers that held him captive. The light flared brighter, and he felt its pull, an invitation to let go of the guilt that had shaped his life. The shadows writhed around Joseph, tendrils clawing at his skin, pulling him deeper into darkness. Standing at the brink, Nicodemus felt the weight of their shared history crush him. "What if I don't come back?" he whispered, vulnerability spilling from his lips. "Then I'll be lost, forever trapped by your choices." Joseph's voice trembled with the urgency of truth, raw and exposed. The woman's laughter rang hollow, the shadows whispering lies, wrapping around Nicodemus's heart like a vice. "You want to save him? You must embrace your own darkness first. Face the truth of who you are." Caught in a whirlwind of confusion and clarity, Nicodemus stepped back from the luminous light. He felt small against the enormity of it all, powerless. But then an ember sparked within him, a flicker of resolve. "You're right," he breathed deeply. "I will not shy away. I will embrace it." As he turned back, the landscape shifted once more. The colors churned violently, morphing like a fever dream, illuminating the path he had chosen. Joseph screamed in the distance. The shadows drew closer, and with them, the cold hand of despair. They were running out of time. The energy surged, racing through him, and as the specter of the woman bore down, Nicodemus braced himself, ready to confront the truth he had long evaded. Would his acceptance bring freedom, or would it lead to the annihilation of everything he held dear? In this reckoning, he realized that nothing could remain the same. Was he prepared to bear the weight of that revelation? And just as the light dimmed, Nicodemus understood something was awakening. Within him, something dark. What would it mean if he let it rise? The ground shook beneath Nicodemus's feet as the shadows closed in, enveloping him with a weight he could hardly bear. The air thickened with a tangible dread, a stench of decay that hung like a shroud. "Joseph!" he screamed, desperation fueling his voice. But the shadows only swallowed the words. That Joseph's figure flickered in the distance, a silhouette barely holding its ground against the dark tide. I can't hold him back. You have to hurry." Panic laced his tone, striking Nicodemus like a dagger. The spectral woman towered over him, her presence a storm of chaos and clarity. "Embrace it, Nicodemus, all that you've hidden, for only then can you break free." Her eyes glinted like shards of glass, reflecting the tumult inside him. He hesitated. A part of him feared what that embrace would unveil. What was lurking beneath the surface of his soul? Memories stormed in fierce waves, crashing against the barricade he had built over the years. He saw her, the girl whose laughter haunted his nights, the one he had turned away from on that fateful day. The cliff, the push, her face twisted in agony. He was a coward, but he was also a survivor. A twisted flicker of rage blossomed inside him, a fierce recognition of his own humanity. "I will not be bound by the past anymore," Nicodemus roared, voice echoing into the void. As he stepped toward the spectral woman, light burst forth, illuminating a fragile crack in his soul. He felt the anger, the pain rising, surging through him like fire, hotter and brighter than any fear. The shadows shrieked, twisting, writhing away from the blaze of his inner truth. Suddenly, the landscape transformed, morphing into twisted flashes of his past, the laughter intermingled with screams. He saw the eyes of the girl, wide in terror, the image emblazoned in his mind like a scar. "No," he gasped, as guilt tightened around his throat. "I didn't mean to leave you. You cannot change what has been done," the spectral woman hissed, but her voice quivered, as if wounded. "You can only reclaim what remains." Nicodemus lunged forward, unyielding in his resolve. The darkness recoiled, revealing Joseph in the throes of a battle against unseen forces, thrashing and shouting to be freed. "Nicodemus, please!" The urgency in his voice shattered something deep within Nicodemus's heart. With a cry that resonated from the core of his being, Nicodemus fully embraced the truth. "I'm here. I've returned." He hurled himself into the fray, battling the shadows that threatened to tear Joseph apart. The energy surged, a glowing ember igniting a wildfire across the darkened landscape. Light exploded around them, illuminating every crack, crevice, and twisted memory. Nicodemus felt the weight of his past lift, transforming into determination, raw and unfettered. He was no longer the boy at the cliff's edge. He was the man rising to reclaim his humanity, unwilling to let the darkness win. "Let him go," Nicodemus shouted at the shadows, willingness morphing into fierce defiance. "You hold no power here." The shadows hesitated, flickering as if uncertain. Behind them, Joseph's pleading eyes met his, full of fear and hope. "Together," Joseph cried, and their eyes locked, courage meeting courage. Nicodemus squeezed his eyes shut, reaching deep within to uncover the flicker of light that had guided him thus far. Then reality shattered. The light expanded explosively, forcing the darkness to writhe in agony, shrieking in echoes of despair. A thunderous crash rolled through the air as shadows disintegrated around them, crashing against the seams of their despair. But just as victory felt within reach, a piercing scream erupted. An unholy sound. It sliced through the air and chilled Nicodemus's blood. He opened his eyes, only to witness the spectral woman transform, her laughter morphing into something sinister. "Do you think this was the end?" she hissed, slivers of darkness pooling around her like a torrent ready to unleash fury. "What rises now is far darker than you imagined." Nicodemus's heart raced. The flicker of triumph dimmed, replaced by a surge of fresh fear. What waited beyond the fragile lines of light they had carved? What truth loomed still, deeper than the shadows they had just faced? The darkness wasn't finished yet, and neither were they. Nicodemus felt the air thicken, the heat of his earlier triumph dissipating like smoke. The shadows encircled the spectral woman, and her eyes blazed with a fierce hunger. He could feel the pulsating energy in the ground beneath him, a reminder that they were still trapped in a twisted battlefield where the lines between life and death blurred. A raw fear clawed inside him as he realized they had merely poked the beast. "Everything you've fought, everything you've lost, it's only beginning," she crooned, dripping malice from every syllable. The corners of her mouth twisted upward, yet it felt like a knife curving back to stab itself. "I'm the keeper of darkness, Nicodemus, and I've kept the worst at bay until now." Joseph's voice broke through. "We can't let her get to you. Focus." He struggled to stay upright, the shadows still gnawing at him, their tendrils writhing with a life of their own. The shock in Joseph's wide eyes mirrored Nicodemus's dread. That it was time for truth. Nicodemus could feel it in his bones. He was done running. Stepping closer to Joseph, he felt a weight. "We'll face this together. Whatever she has, it won't overpower our light." He tightened his fist, channeling the fire moving through him. It flickered, but it was still there. The spectral woman's laughter echoed, a shrill sound that pierced the air. "Light, you say?" She sneered. "You're still chained to your guilt. You are nothing more than a shadow of your own making." Images flooded his mind, his past. The cliff, that face emerging from the dark water below. Was he truly free from it? Each moment of hesitation left a trail of despair on his heart. "No," he shouted, anger surging like electricity. "You want to find me." With every ounce of his being, he reached for the flickers of memories that haunted him. The past that had shackled him, transformed, became kindling in his hands. He let them burn brightly, illuminating the truth of his mistakes. Yes, he had been fearful. Yes, he had lost. But he also had the strength to rise. The shadows shifted, as if sensing his change. The spectral woman's hazy forms flickered, and for an instant, doubt washed over her features. You think these petty flames can compare to my darkness? No, Joseph cried in defiance, his voice trembling but fierce. But we're not alone. They forged their energies together, the warmth spreading like a wave, clashing against the cold dread. The shadows shrank like animals retreating from a predator. Together, they stepped forward, intertwining their light, forcing the spectral nightmare to confront their shared flame. You can't hope to banish me, she spat, and her voice rang out like shattered glass. This darkness has waited long enough, but before she could unleash her next blow, a deeper, more guttural roar erupted from the shadows. From within the thick veil of darkness, a hulking shape began to form, spindly limbs extending from a thrumming center, like a nightmare birthed from fear itself. What is that? Nicodemus gasped, horror flooding his senses. The darkness coalesced into a towering figure, a beast of despair whose emergence sent ice through his veins. Joseph stumbled back, terror etched across his features. This is only the beginning, fool. I promised you darkness, and this is your reckoning. The spectral woman's laughter echoed once again, mingling with the guttural growls from the thing that was rising. Nicodemus felt his heart pound, an urgency gripping him as the monstrous shadow loomed larger. They needed to plan a way to confront this horror that prowled from the depths. His fingers trembled, but in this moment of fear, a quiet thought flickered. Perhaps in acknowledging their own shadows, they could gain dominion over the darkness threatening to consume them. Joseph, he whispered, the decision forming like iron in his gut. We can't run. We have to face this, but how? Behind them, the beast shrieked, an ear-splitting sound that reverberated with promise of chaos. And as the walls of shadows crumbled ahead, Nicodemus knew they'd need to summon every ounce of light remaining within them. If they were to stand a chance, they needed to confront what lurked in the heart of darkness. But could they truly brave the storm? What awaited them behind the veil of nightmares? The shadows writhed around them, crackling with dark energy as the monstrous figure loomed larger, feeding on fear, echoing the terrors they had long avoided. Nicodemus felt sweat cool on his brow, trickling down, heavy with the weight of his choices. He could hear the muted cries of the trapped souls, echoes of despair that intertwined with the beast-esque growls, their pain, a siren-esque song, demanding to be acknowledged. Panic surged within him, but together they stood resolute. Listen, he shouted, locking eyes with Joseph. We face this as one. Together we wield our truth. There was a flicker of hope amidst the encroaching shadows. Stand and fight, he had to believe this. Right? Joseph replied, his voice quaking, but fierce determination shone through. We've already faced the worst of our truths. We can do this. With a deep breath, Nicodemus reached for what remained of their light, allowing memories to anchor him, his failures and heartaches woven into the very fabric of who he was. You think your darkness defines us? He yelled at the specter that towered before them. We are more than what you see. We are also hope and bravery. We have come too far to cower. The beast opened its maw, a gaping void of despair, roaring back as if to counter his defiance. Shadows swirled violently around them, but he felt the warmth spreading between his and Joseph's fingertips, the heat of their resolve igniting like flames against the cold. They stepped forward, their lights intertwining, fracturing the darkness that had bound them. We barely scratched the surface before, Nicodemus cried, and together they advanced, the pulse of their hearts synced as one guiding force. This time we conquer. The spectral woman screamed, an unholy sound that pierced the air, her visage twisting with rage. Foolish mortals, your strength means nothing. As they united, the warmth surged again, cascading over them like a bright wave. That's where you're wrong, Joseph shouted, an emboldened roar that lit the air around them. We own our past, and with it, we will build our future. And then they did the unthinkable. They embraced their shadows. Nicodemus invited every painful memory, every ounce of regret cascading through him as the ground trembled beneath their feet. The beast shrieked as if threatened, a palpable fear warning of its inevitable demise. Suddenly, blinding light burst from the center of their linked hands, a sonic boom forcing the shadows back. The beast writhed, its form cracking like glass under the intensity of their unified will. They were shaking, flesh vibrating with courage, adrenaline pumping, hearts hammering against their chests. Break free. Let the light within guide you. Joseph's voice merged with Nicodemus's, a fierce crescendo rising above the chaos. Together, they unleashed the truth. The fissures of vulnerability became cracks in the facade of darkness encroaching upon them. The spectral figure roared, ferocious in her defeat. You cannot win. But Nicodemus and Joseph knew the truth. They were already winning by accepting their past, confronting what haunted them. Your power over us is over. Nicodemus shouted, his voice carrying the weight of many lives before him, those lost, forgotten, and now spark igniting anew. The beast reared back as the light seared through the silhouette of despair, each pulse causing the shadows to shatter against the night. This ends now. Joseph's voice soared as they pressed on, their energy colliding with the darkness until everything erupted in a burst of luminous energy that swallowed the cavernous void around them. And just like that, the echoes of the past began to dissipate, unraveling like smoke in the wind. The oppressive weight of darkness lifted, allowing them to breathe deeply, the air now charged with a shimmering clarity. The spectral woman's figure faltered, darkness melting away from her features, revealing a worn and fragile humanity beneath. You faced what I could not, she whispered, voice trembling with defeat before vanishing into a haze of light her power extinguished. In that moment, Nicodemus felt a knot within him unravel, an aching release of fear that he had carried through lifetimes. Together, they stood as shadows of the past were rendered inconsequential in the glow of newfound truth. Nicodemus, we did it. Joseph gasped, the overwhelming relief washing over them both. Together we set ourselves free, Nicodemus replied, overwhelmed with emotion. Tears flowed unbidden down his cheeks, a newfound sense of liberation coursing through him. For the first time, he felt light, unburdened by guilt, unsuppressed by fear. As they stepped forward from the tomb, the light spilled over the cold stone floor like dawn breaking after a long night. The harsh reality of Jerusalem's streets awaited them, but it was no longer an anxiety-laden weight. They had rewritten chapter S of their lives, tethered by the acknowledgement of their scars, no longer fears to hide from, but testaments to their humanity. Tomorrow we rise, Nicodemus whispered, sharing a determined glance with Joseph, and we shall walk boldly. As they made their way into the soft hues of dawn, the voices of bygone souls lingered like echoes, reminding them of the depth of their journey and adventure of truth, of love, and of stark beauty. As they walked side by side, the light illuminating their path forward, hearts soaring as hope unfurled its wings, welcoming them into a future teeming with promise. Joseph turned to Nicodemus. What now? Now we live. He smiled, strength surging through him. With every step, we reclaim the past and forge a tomorrow that honors every sacrifice we've made. Together, they embraced the dawn, a new beginning, resilient and beautiful, a future boundless as the sky above them. The end marks a beginning. There are many more tales waiting. Don't you miss out. You need to subscribe now so you get all the exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this epic ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference. So show your love for the channel today.